Screen Park Unlimited.
This is episode 23 of the Ghost Stories, and in these Ghost Stories, it'll be all from Devon. So there's going to be 2 Ghost Stories. The first one is called The White Bird of Oxenham. South Zill is a small village located on the northern side of Dartmoor. It lies between the A30 and the towering Cosden of Corsand Hill, and is the scene of one of Dartmoor's strangest sequence of events. There is a lovely old stone pub called the Oxenham, which derived its name from a local family whose history dated back to Elizabeth I. Oxenham Manor, the family home, is about 1 mile to the northeast of South Zill, as close to the boundary of the Dartmoor National Park as you could get. The Oxenham family was haunted by the apparition of a white-breasted bird. For a family member to see it virtually sealed their fate, and death followed almost immediately. Admittedly, some of the Oxenhams who died were already on their deathbeds when the white bird fluttered over them. But there was also sightings by healthy members who met that with untimely deaths. Lazy Margaret Oxenham as a visitation on the eve of her wedding. Her father saw it fluttering over her head, but said nothing. Perhaps if he did, she might have been warned to be careful. For one of the following day, at the wedding ceremony, a jealous ex-lover rushed into South Taunton Church and plunged a knife into Margaret's back, then pulled it out and killed himself. It should be pointed out that it was not just the fevered imagination of a dying person who saw the bird each time. Many respectable witnesses in full control of their full faculties would all swear to having seen the bird during the 18th century. William Oxenham was feeling slightly off colour when the bird was sighted over him. He boldly proclaimed that he might be sick, but he certainly wasn't that sick. Within 3 days he was dead and buried. The white bird followed the family around until the last of this Oxenham line passed away in Canada in the 20th century. Unfortunately, no one noticed whether the bird hopped over the Atlantic, then decided to stay in Canada, or whether, in fact, it never saw its last victim. It is known, though, that the death of his father and Exeter certainly was preceded by a visit from a white bird. There are, of course, many pigeons across the city centre, but even if one had accidentally found its way into the death chamber, it would certainly have been an odd coincidence. The next one is called Lady Howard. There is no telling what sort of sentence Judge Jeffreys might have inflicted on Lady Howard, who, according to the folklore story, supposedly murdered her 4 husbands. This story has developed as a result of mistaken identity, as the deeds of one Lady Frances Howard have been attributed to another Lady Mary Howard. Perhaps this is why her ghost is such a bizarre manifestation. If you see her, then take some consolation in the fact that her only will crime was to cut off her children's inheritance. Nevertheless, she doomed to a never-ending chore. She has to visit Oakhampton Castle every night to pluck a single blade of grass. The castle was part of the Fitzwood estates. She was the granddaughter of Sir John Fitz of Fitzwood near Tavistock. It is her ghoulish means of transport to the castle and the nature of the journey that is so remarkable, even for a legend. Lady Arrow becomes a big black dog. She runs beside a coach or carriage, which is constructed from bones of the 4 husbands she is alleged to have murdered. If you throw in 4 headless horses and a headless coachman, you are left with quite a bizarre spectacle. The whole entourage has to travel from Fitzwood near Tavistock to Oakhampton and back. Weird as her mode of transport may be, she is indeed very fortunate that she doesn't have to rely on public transport on this route. She doesn't use the A386 because it didn't exist in the days when she began her sorties into the night. Instead, she used the original route, which scales the highest of them all. One can only imagine the awful weather she must encounter at night when she embarks on her nightly quest. Occasionally, she has been spied just off the route at Bridgestow, as she has been seen at the Royal Oak and also at the Ghost Tree, which after all has to be the ideal spot for a ghost dog. So that's the end of these ghost stories, and it's time to say cue these credits. Goodbye.